So I'm glad that you're here today, and we're starting a brand new series with you. For the last few weeks, we talked about things that affect our heart, and for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to talk about things that affect your head. So that's kind of where we're going to go a little bit today. I'm going to sound like your dad a little bit as I share some stuff. We're going to be uber practical this morning. If you're watching at home or watching online, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We're glad that you're here. I think that one thing all of us in this room have in common, all of us would like to have a better life. All of us want a better life. All of us in this room want to be better at something. We want to be a better dad, a better parent, a better mom. We want to be a better husband or wife. We want to be a better student. Come on, school is starting in 9 or 10 days, depending on which school you attend. And everybody said, that was parents, right? That was awesome. They want to be better students. We want to be better. Maybe we want to be better at our finances. There's an area of your life you wish you were better at self-discipline. You want to have better eating habits. You want a better home life. You want to be a better employee. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, you know what, today I think I want to be worse at something. At some point in our life, we recognize there's some element in our life we want to be better at it. We want to be a better business person. We want to be better in our marriage. We want to be better personally. There's something that we just want to do better. And it's a universal desire. I just think we want things better. We're used to upgrading things. We want better things. You're not using the same phone that you used 5 years ago. Well, I know one guy that is, but the rest of you aren't, you know. We upgrade our cars. We upgrade our television sets. We upgrade things at home. We upgrade because we want things to be better. And the same thing is about us. We go sometimes to self-help classes. We'll maybe further our education. We get the brochures, the pamphlets, the booklets. We'll watch the vlog online or something. But you understand this, and we know this instinctively. We know this, but we don't do it. And that is this. For anything to change for us, something has to change in us. We know that for anything to change for us, something has to change in us. But we're so used to it being this way that we just kind of do it this way. And we do it the same way over and over and over again, hoping that something will change. But instinctively, all of us in this room, we know this. In order for something to change for us, something has to change in us. We've got to change a habit. We've got to change a routine. We've got to change the way we think about something. Something in us or about us in our life has to change. Now look, all of us in this room, we've all made some poor decisions because we didn't change some things. We've all made poor decisions emotionally, relationally, financially, physically. We've all made some poor decisions. Isn't it true? Come on, you've made some really poor financial decisions in your life. Come on. For instance, you bought a boat, right? I just want to see if you're listening this morning. How many think that's a poor financial decision? Okay, another poor financial decision. You bought a treadmill. How about that one, right? And now it's a clothes rack in your bedroom. Okay, we know how that goes. You made some people, you've got the tattoo. You've got a tattoo of her name right there emblazoned across your chest. But you're not married to her, so you know that was a poor decision you made. We've made poor decisions in relationships or in marriages, and you can tell the story. You can tell this story. It's there. You've made poor financial decisions, and you've maybe filed bankruptcy. You've gotten into business dealings that you kind of regret, you wish you hadn't gotten into. And everything that I'm going to share with you for the next couple of weeks is really just very practical. I'm just going to sound a lot like your dad. Maybe you moved here from somewhere else to get away from your dad, and today I'm going to sound like your dad. And to sound like your dad, we're going to read from the book called Proverbs. The guy who writes most of Proverbs is a king. His name is Solomon. Solomon receives from God more wisdom than anybody before him and anybody after him. He's the smartest man in the world. And it's interesting, if you read about the life of this guy, Solomon, who was a king, you know that even though he was the smartest man in the world, he still made some very unwise decisions. But he lays out some really practical stuff for us to just listen to a little bit. And he tells us things that you know already, and I know already. It's just a matter of doing something with what we know. Listen to what he says in Proverbs chapter 22. This is incredible. He's going to contrast two kinds of people. And you and I get to pick which kind of the person we are. And we're either one or the other. and we've all been one or the other. Look what he says in Proverbs chapter 22, verse number 3. He says this, a prudent person foresees danger, and he takes precautions. I just pause on that for a little bit. A prudent person is just somebody who's smart. It's somebody who can kind of connect the dots in life. It's somebody who can look down the road and understand that today's decisions, today's choices will have an impact tomorrow. It's somebody who understands that the decisions have consequences tomorrow, either good or bad. In other words, if I want to get to this destination, I have to get on this road in order to get to that place. That's a prudent person. They know that they need to take precautions financially, emotionally, relationally. They just understand these things, because if I don't make a right or a wise decision today, it's going to have a negative consequence or maybe a positive consequence somewhere down the line. So a prudent person just looks into the future a little bit. So now Solomon says this is the prudent person. Now he contrasts this with another kind of person. The contrast that he uses in this, we call this an antithetical parallelism. Aren't you glad you came to church to learn about antithetical parallelisms? And that's what this is. Because look what he says in the rest of verse number 3. Verse number 3, he goes on to say, he says, look, the simpleton, he goes blindly on and he suffers the consequences. Now, a simpleton isn't a derogatory remark. It just simply means this is a naive person. This is somebody who lives for today. This is somebody who says, you know what, I don't really think about consequences down the line. I just do what feels good, what feels right, what seems to be right in the moment. And they don't think about how it might affect them later on. They just think about today, right now. Everything's going to work out okay. It's no big deal. Like, stop overreacting. It's all right. You sound like my mother, you know. It's going to be okay. They don't think about the consequences of the choices that they make today. And you know what? We've all done that. All of us have been prudent in some areas, and all of us have been simpletons in some areas. And it's easy to be a simpleton, especially when you're young. You know what? When you're young, look, come on. When you're a teenager, how many have ever been a teenager before? Raise your hand. When you're a teenager, you have this invincibility gene in you. There's just something inside of you, especially when you're a teenage boy. You can jump anything, with anything. I can jump off of anything and over anything with anything, and I'll be okay, you know? I can do anything. And we can, when you get to be an adult, we make fun of teenagers. Well, there's a lack of development in the frontal lobe. You know, well, look, you can be an adult and have a lack of development in the frontal lobe, you know? But teenagers just think there's no consequences. They live for the moment. They live for today. And at some point, all of us have had regrets. All of us in this room have been the simpleton, and we've had regrets. So what I'm here to share with you today for just a few moments is this. How do we avoid making decisions that cause regrets later on? And the answer to that is this. We need some wisdom. We just need some wisdom. Wisdom is what you want for your children. Wisdom is what you want for yourself. Wisdom is what we need. And a simple definition of wisdom is this. Wisdom is just knowing what to do in response to current circumstances and future possibilities. I'll say it again. Wisdom is just knowing what to do in response to current circumstances and future possibilities. We've all in this room, all of us have heard the voice of wisdom call to us. And we're going to read a proverb in just a moment where Solomon writes this, and he personifies wisdom as a woman standing in the street calling out to people. And we've all heard the voice of wisdom call to us. Come on. Your car or truck, we're in Williston, truck. Your truck is making this noise. And you just know that you should do something about that noise. I mean, wisdom is calling out to you, this is a bad noise. Like, that's a bad noise. I should get it fixed, but I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't know who to go to. It'll be okay. Wisdom says, get it repaired. And then somewhere along the line, wintertime strikes. You're on Highway 2 in the middle of nowhere, which is about 10 miles out of town, and your truck breaks down. You got a spot on your skin. The voice of wisdom says, you should go get that checked out. No, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Gets bigger, changes color, starts to develop a personality of its own, and pretty soon you've got a bigger diagnosis on your hand. He's never at home. He's never home. He's never home. The voice of wisdom says, you need to find out why he's never home. No, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. He's never at home. Boyfriend slapped you. Not once, not twice, 3 times, maybe more. The voice of wisdom says, get out, but I love him. You want to believe the best in him? You got some bills that are coming up. Upcoming bills. You know that you've got a utility bill. You know you got rent coming. You know you got a car payment, but you want this right now. The voice of wisdom saying, don't buy it. But you're thinking, I want it. Wisdom calls to us all the time. But do we listen? So if you're following along, however you want to get their page there, scroll there, whatever, I'm going to jump back a little bit to Proverbs chapter 1. Same guy, Solomon, talks about wisdom. And again, he personifies wisdom like a woman. And he says this about wisdom. He says this in Proverbs chapter 1, verse number 20. Wisdom shouts in the streets. In fact, she cries out in the public square. Hey, over here. Yo, listen to me. I'm right here. She's in the public square. What he's saying is wisdom is not elusive. It's not hard to find wisdom. It's not hard to hear wisdom. Wisdom is everywhere. She isn't trying to run away from you. It's not something that's trying to be secretive. Wisdom is right there all the time if we just listen to it. Verse number 21, she calls to the crowds along the main street, to those gathered in front of the city gate. In other words, wisdom doesn't only speak to certain people. Wisdom speaks to everyone. It isn't just for them. It isn't just for you. It's for all of us, and it's needed everywhere in life all the time. Now, wisdom cries out, and it's a universal message to all of us. Hey, listen. Would you just listen to me? Listen. Come on, just listen to me. I mean, come on. If you're a parent, you know what this is like. How many have tried to talk to your children, and you decide just ignore the kids and talk to the wall because you'll get more feedback from the wall? And that's kind of what wisdom's doing with us here. Now, wisdom has this universal message for every kind of person. And as Solomon writes, he's going to list 3 kinds of people for us. And we've all been one of these 3 kinds of people at some point in our life. So wisdom's calling out to 3 kinds of people. Verse number 22, first kind of person. How long will you, there's that word again, simpletons, insist on being simple-minded? Do you see the verbiage there? Insist. You want to be a simpleton. And again, it's not an insult. It's just that you're naive. You know, when you're 15 years old, this isn't an insult to you, but when you're 15, you just don't know stuff that you know when you're 35. And everybody 35 and older says, yeah, right? There's just stuff that you don't know. You just don't know stuff. And your parents talk to you when you're a teenager, and you listen to them, and their mouth is moving, and words are coming out, but you don't understand a word they're saying, blah, 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 blah. They act like they're so smart, but mom and dad really don't have a clue about life, you know. And they're worried about me. Just stop overreacting to me. Your parents just go on, and they're freaking out about your friends and all that kind of stuff going on. And you're thinking in the back of your mind, you're trying to give me advice? You're trying to give me advice? Look at the clothes you wear when you walk out of the house. Like, and you're trying to give me advice. Yeah. It's not about an IQ thing. It's just a life experience thing. Because you can be a really smart person and make really dumb decisions, you know? Wisdom is asking us, how long do you want to stay that way? Second kind of person, same verse, goes on to say, how long will you mockers, I love saying that word, mocker. How long will you mockers relish in your mocking? Now, the mocker is the person who makes fun of the person trying to do the wise thing. That's what a mocker is. There's people that watched you pull out of your driveway today. Oh, look at those Christians going to church today. They're making fun of you. We've all been with a mocker when suddenly you go out to eat. Come on. You go out to eat and you decided you're going to start a new diet plan and you're looking at the menu and you order something completely different. And all your buddies, all your friends around the table are like, whoa, what are you trying to do here? And they don't support you. They make fun of you. Come on. You tried to start a new diet and exercise program? Like, what do you mean you're running around the block? You mean like a piece of wood? That kind of a block? Like, what do you mean? You've never exercised a day in your life. The only thing you exercise is your authority. That's, what do you think you're doing? And they make fun of you for trying to do the wise things. And then he goes on to say in the rest of that verse, number 22, how long will you fools hate knowledge? So we've got simpletons, mockers, and fools. And the fool, this is probably the tragic one. The fool is the person who knows the wise thing to do, but they don't do it. Come on, we've all met those kinds of fools. They know the wise thing to do, they just don't do it. I mean, we've all said to somebody, smoking's bad for you. You know that, right? Yeah, I know. I don't care. Are you sure you want to put that in your mouth? Yeah, I know it's bad, but I don't care. Are you sure you want to date him? Yeah, I know, but he drives a nice car, Are you sure you want to go into debt for that? No, but I want it. And that's the fool. And all of us in this room have been a simpleton. All of us have been a mocker. And all of us have been the fool. Just don't look at the people next to you and try to figure out which one they are, okay? We've all been there. And then Solomon really puts things into perspective now. Look what he says in verse number 23. Verse 23. Come and listen to my counsel. Would you just listen to me and I'll share my heart with you and I'll make you wise. In other words, he's just saying this. Listen. Turn around now before it's too late. Because you know how it is. The simpleton is driving their car at 90 miles an hour straight towards a brick wall, and the person in the passenger seat saying, don't you think you should stop? No, it'll be okay, And we see this happen in other people's lives all the time, but it's so hard to identify in our own life. He says, stop, would you just listen, turn around before it's too late. And then the next thing he says can be really humbling for us. Look at verse number 24. Wisdom says, look, I called to you so often, but you wouldn't come. I reached out to you, but you paid no attention. This kind of sounds like a parent talking, doesn't it, huh? This sounds like a parent talking. It sounds like a parent talking. But wisdom says, I called to you so often, but you wouldn't come. And I reached out to you, but you paid no attention. And you know what? That's true for your life, isn't it? And you've got a story to tell today. You've got a story to tell, and it's a painful story. You knew you shouldn't have. You knew you should have, but you didn't. You maybe didn't identify it as the voice of wisdom, but there was this little thing in the back of your head that said, you know what, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that. Verse 25. You ignored my advice. You ignored it, and you rejected the correction that I offered. That's also true, isn't it? You understand this is an intentional thing. You did this willfully. Willfully. You just walked away from it. You just ignored it. You didn't care. And then what he says next can sound and feel a little cold. Look what he says in verse 26, sorry. So you know what? I'm going to laugh at you when you're in trouble. I'm going to laugh at you when you're in trouble, and I'm going to mock you when disaster overtakes you. Next verse goes on. When calamity overtakes you like a storm, when disaster engulfs your life like a cyclone, and anguish and distress overwhelm you. You kind of get the impression that when we don't listen to wisdom, it gets really bad, doesn't it? You kind of get the impression we should probably listen to the voice of wisdom. And again, all of us in this room have a story to tell. We got into a business relationship with somebody. We later regretted it. We knew. In the back of our mind, there was this little voice, this little thing. We knew that we should have taken better care of ourselves. We knew that we should have saved up some money. We knew we shouldn't have bought this. We knew we shouldn't have married that person. I've talked to so many people that have gone through divorce, and they said, tell me about the day of your wedding. And they have said to me, I knew that day that I shouldn't have. The voice of wisdom was calling. And laughing is that little voice in the back of your head that says, should have listened to my mama. And we've all been there. We've all been there. Look at the state of our country right now. You listen to enough news. You see enough news to know where things are at in our nation. Do you think our national leaders in our nation, do you think we could use a little bit more wisdom in our country and how it's led? Look at the state of your finances right now. You live in paycheck to paycheck. You scramble and panic when something happens financially in your life. It rocks your world, and you didn't plan on this coming. Maybe there could be some wisdom that could be implemented where your finances are concerned. Think about the relationship you're in right now. I know it feels good at first, but in the back of your mind, you're listening to this little voice, and you just see things in him, you see things in her. You thought moving in together would be the right thing to do. You just thought it's all going to work out okay, but right now in the relationship, it's just taking you places you never planned for it to go. I had somebody just talk to me the other day. They got involved with the wrong woman. They lost all their money. They lost all their possessions. They lost their house. They lost their car. Wouldn't it be great if you could just rewind and go, yeah, I'm going to listen to the voice of wisdom here. Look at where you're at in a marriage right now. Your marriage is on a crash course. Your marriage is going in a direction you never wanted it to go. You remember standing up there in front of the pastor or the judge, taking your vows and saying the words, and in the back of your mind, you knew what this marriage, this home, this family was going to look like, but it is on a destination to a crash course. And if something doesn't change in you right now, it's going to die. If something doesn't change in the way you relate to one another, it's going to die. It's going to crash and it's going to burn, and the kids will be the collateral damage. I'm telling you, you know in the back of your mind what needs to change. Change it. Look at how you're parenting right now. You're creating a monster. You don't want to deal with things. You don't want to have a confrontation with your kid. You don't want to stand in their way. You want to be their friend. And you start to see the course and the direction that they're going. They don't need a friend. They need a parent. They need guidance. They need somebody to lead them to make wise and right decisions. But you know at this point in time, that train is so far down the track that if you stand in the path, it's going to be a crash right there. And so you just step aside and let it keep on going. You know where it's going to go. Wisdom tells you the direction it's going. He says in verse number 30, look, all these people, they rejected my advice. They paid no attention when I corrected them. What are the consequences? Look at verse 31. Therefore, they must eat the bitter fruit of living their own way. And some of you have eaten the bitter fruit. Some of you are rolling it around in your mouth right now. And you know that for anything to change, something has to change in you. It takes courage. Here's good news, though. There's good news. You know, as a pastor, sometimes you share stuff from Scripture, and I realize you stand up here, you just read Scripture, and you make it sound like, I'm a bad person, Pastor. You know? But there's good news. Because look what he says in verse 33. But. That little conjunctive word can say so much, can't it? But all who listen to me will live in peace, untroubled by fear and harm. You know what? That sounds like a better life, doesn't it? It sounds to me like if we listen and obey and act on the voice of wisdom, we can live a better life. I mean, who in this room doesn't want a life that's untroubled by fear and harm? Who in this room doesn't want to lay their head on the pillow at night and not have to worry about how are we going to pay the bills? What's going to happen to the kids? Where is he tonight? What is she thinking? Who is she texting? Who are they talking to? Where am I going to end up spiritually? Where am I going to end up eternally? If we just listen to the voice of wisdom. This is a great part. God always allows U-turns. Now, sometimes God will let us live with the consequences of our choices. And some of you are here today and you could tell your story. And sometimes the consequences seem harsh. They seem severe. But they need to be so that we remember. As a kid, I remember being at my grandparents' farm. Just a little squirt. I'm playing with the pigs. Doesn't that sound fun? They were little. And I'm in the pig pen. And they didn't have much of a pen. There was this little strand of silver wire that went around the perimeter of the pen. And you're a kid. What do kids do? When they want to learn something, what do? You either put it in your mouth or you touch it, right? I touched it. It was an electric fence. That was harsh. But every time I went anywhere in the pasture, the first thing I looked for was that little silver thread, because I knew that's the boundary. You need to be careful of that. And sometimes God puts consequences in our life that seem harsh and severe because he wants us to remember, because he loves us. Come on, you're parents. You get this. If you're a parent, you understand. You discipline your kids because you love them. Hey, Mom, I'm going to touch this burner. Oh, go right on ahead. Burn your hand right off. God is no different. Wisdom isn't trying to hide from you. You say, I just don't know what to do right now. One of the things that people come and talk to me so much about is, I just want to know the will of God. I just want to know God's will for my life. And we try to overcomplicate this thing. What is God's will for me? I'll tell you, it's to be obedient and wise. In fact, people just want to know, well, what's the right thing to do? And they'll listen sometimes and go, I try to let my heart be my guide. No. You know what we learned about the heart in the last series? Your heart will deceive you every time. This is about your head. And you ask yourself this question when you don't know what to do with finances, when you don't know what to do with that relationship, when you don't know what to do as a parent, when you don't know what to do with yourself, when you don't know what to do with your past and your present, you ask yourself this question: what would be the wise thing to do? What's the wise thing to do? You need to listen to the voice of wisdom. And when you listen to the voice of wisdom, you will enjoy a better life. When you listen to the voice of wisdom, we automatically, the consequences, the good consequences, are that we begin to enjoy a better life. Now here's what Scripture says. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. But the beginning of wisdom is a fear of the Lord. And that fear doesn't mean you run away from him. It's a respect and a reverence and an awe, saying, God, I recognize the need to make you the Lord of my life. And so if you want to start making wiser choices in your life, the most important and first decision that you need to make is this one. This is the wisest decision you will ever make in your life, to let God and his Son, Jesus Christ, be the Lord and the leaders of your life. That's the first decision that you need to make. All other decisions flow out of that one decision, that one choice right there. Because when you make Jesus Lord of your life, it will help you be wise in your relationships. It'll help you be wise with your thought life. It'll help you be wise with how you live out your life. It'll help you be wise in the person you pick to marry. It'll help you be wise in vocational choices. It'll help you be wise to make business decisions. The first decision that you need to make is a wise decision to say, Jesus, be the Lord of my life. And maybe there's other things happening in life right now. You just go, wow, Pastor, I recognize changes I need to make. I've heard the voice of wisdom calling, but you know what you need now? Come on, you know it and I know it. It's courage to follow through. It's courage to follow through. Wisdom is not elusive. It's not hard to figure out the wise thing to do. The difficulty for us is doing it. I know I need to stop eating this. I know I need to start eating that. Come on. You can know that all the way to your grave and never act on it. I know that I need to treat my spouse this way. I know that I need to speak to them this way. I know that I need to lead my children this way. I know these are the boundaries I need to set in relationships. I know this is the kind of man I want to marry. I know these are the qualities I want in a woman. I know it. But I'll just do things the way I've always done them and hope for different results. Come on, church, it doesn't work that way, does it?